Okay, so where we left off was where we had this monstrosity here. Okay, so quadrant 1, everything was positive. Quadrant 2, sine was positive, the other two were negative. Tan in the quadrant 3 and cosine in the quadrant 4, or cos in the quadrant 4. Okay, well, why does this actually help us? Like, what is this going to allow us to do? Well, I'm glad you asked. What this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to find values of trigonometric ratios very, very quickly. Okay, so let's say, for example, and we'll start off with a simple one. I wanted to find what tan of, well, let's say 150 degrees was. Okay. Now the short answer, oh, excuse me, the short answer is we go to our calculator and we say to ourselves, well, tan of 150, put it in, and we get, well, you guys won't get that, you'll get this. We get negative 0.5773. I mean, if your calculator gives you this, put that down because that is 100% the correct answer. But when we're looking for the exact value, this will not cut it, okay? So this is coming back to those two triangles that we looked at before. So I'm not going to go over this again. If you need a refresher on it, have a look at one of my other videos. I'll try and link it if I can work that out. But the point is that it's one of these triangles here that we're going to be using, right? So 2 root 3, 1, and it's right angle, and it's 45 degrees in there, and it's 60 and here, okay? So these are the two triangles we're going to do. Now, tan of 150 degrees. Well, how do these triangles help me solve what tan of 150 degrees is? Okay. Well, at the moment it doesn't, but it's going to, okay? Because remember, when we did this before, we had to look at what the related angle was going to be, okay? And the way we did that is we measured back from 180 degrees, okay? So to start off with, I think to myself, okay, 150 degrees. So where does 150 degrees lie on the unit circle, okay? And essentially we're looking for, is it quadrant 1, is it quadrant 2, is it quadrant 3, or is it quadrant 4? And there's basically 4 formulas that I'm going to give you that as soon as you work out what quadrant you're in, you're going to be able to work out what the answer is going to be, okay? So 150 degrees, okay, well 0 to 90, so it's not in that one. 90 to 180, it's in quadrant number 2. Okay, now the rule for quadrant 2 is the reference angle, okay, or the angle that we're going to use to get our solution is 180 degrees minus whatever our angle is, okay? And that should be equal to our number that we want, okay? So it's 180 degrees minus whatever the reference angle is to get to the number we want, okay? So this is what we want, okay? So the question now becomes, well, how do I work out what this is equal to? So think about it, 180 degrees minus what is 150, okay? Shouldn't be rocket science, but you can put it into a calculator if you need to. 180 minus 150 gives us 30 degrees. So our reference angle, okay, reference angle is 30 degrees, okay? So all I've done is I've found what we call our reference angle. And our reference angle allows us to find the exact value for an angle that's very, very similar to 150 degrees, okay? So let's go and look for 30 degrees in our triangles, okay? 30 degrees is up here, okay? And we're doing the, the tan one, I believe, for this question. We're doing tan, okay? So I don't care at what angle this is right now. I'm looking for 30 degrees. I'm looking for this reference angle, okay? Because I don't have a triangle that's 150 degrees. So I'm looking for this reference angle. So here's my 30 degrees here, okay? Now tan is opposite over adjacent. So 1 over root 3, or if you do the third simplification, root 3 over 3. Okay, so it's up to you which one you pick. Okay, but both of these answers are correct. Okay, so therefore, tan of, and now this is tan of 30 degrees is equal to 1 on root 3 or root 3 on 3. Okay, so tan of 30 degrees is what I found. But we're not looking for tan of 30 degrees. This is only going to help us find what tan of 150 degrees is. Now, this is why the all stations to Coaldale or Central or Cardiff or wherever you want to put it to is really useful. Because the all stations to Central is going to help us work out, is this answer positive or negative root 3 on 3, okay? So I know the answer is root 3 on 3. Now the 150 is going to tell me, is it positive or negative, okay? So what I'm going to do up here is I'm just going to do a little cross. I'm going to do an all stations to Coaldale. Okay. This is my quadrant 1, this is my quadrant 2, this is my quadrant 3, this is my quadrant 4. Okay, and we've got quadrant 2, which is my S. So what that is telling me is that it's sine that is positive. So therefore, tan of 150 degrees must be negative. Okay, whoops. And it is equal to oh my God, I just closed everything. And it is equal to negative whatever our tan of 30 degrees was, okay? So tan of 30 degrees, what was that equal to? Where's my U10 folder? My God, I'm actually losing the plot right now. So here we are. So we've got tan of 30 degrees, which is equal to root 3 on 3. So my answer, tan of 150 is equal to negative root 3 on 3, okay? So, quick recap. Reference angle, okay? That's step 1, okay? You're looking for the reference angle to begin with, okay? Well, realistically, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for, so I guess step 0, what quadrant, okay? Now, you don't really have to do that step if you can work it out really quickly, but our real first step is the reference angle. Step 2, positive or negative, okay? So this is basically the step-by-step of what you guys need to do to work out whether this is positive or negative, okay? Now, as I said before, this is how we do it for when it's between 0 and, 90 and 180 degrees. And there's basically 3 rules that we can use to work it out. Okay, so the 3 rules, so we call them the reference angle rules. Okay. The reference angle rules basically say 90 to 180 degrees, okay? The rule is you do 180 minus whatever it is to get to your answer, okay? Now, for 180 to 270 degrees, you do... Now, this one's a bit weird. You're going to do 180 degrees plus the reference angle to get to your value. We'll look at one of these ones in a moment. And then finally, 270 to 360 degrees. And the formula is 360 minus your reference angle to get to the number that you want. Excuse me. Okay. So, let's have a look at 2 more examples of this happening, okay? In our thing, and then we'll talk about one last thing before we go. Okay, so right, following in exact form. And we'll just do 2 of these. We'll do sine of 330 degrees, and we'll do cos of 230. Okay, so sine of 330 and cos of 230. Okay, so sine of 330 degrees. Now, first things first, work out what quadrant you're in. You're in quadrant number 4. Okay, so just put a little Q4 here. Okay, we're in quadrant 4. Okay, now the second thing is, what is my reference angle? So I need to work out what bracket or what formula am I going to use. Okay, I'm going to be using, so it's 330 degrees, which lies in this one here. So I'm going to be using the 360 minus theta is equal to my 330 degrees, okay? So what does theta need to be equal to in this case? Well, in this particular case, theta just needs to be equal to, well, look at that, 30 degrees as well, okay? So my reference angle is 30 degrees. So once we've done that bit, now we need to work out, well, we're looking at sine, and we're looking for our reference angle for sine of 30 degrees, okay? So our reference angle. So let's go back up to our little triangles. Okay, we're looking at 30 degrees again, which is this one over here. Okay, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Well, that's easy. That's just 1/2. So my answer for this one is 1/2. Okay. Now that is for 30 degrees, but remember we want sine of 330 degrees. Okay. Now this is where our quadrant comes into play. So remember quadrant 4. So think back to your all stations to central. Quadrant 4 is telling me that 1, 2, 3, that cosine is positive and anything else is negative. So this, because this is sine, which is not cosine, it means my answer is going to be negative. So sine is equal to negative, and then just whatever my reference angle was. So half, or my reference, yeah, what my reference one was. So it's basically just this number here, and the quadrant is telling me, is my answer going to be positive or negative, okay? All right, let's have a look at this last one. Now, 230 degrees, whereabouts is that, okay? 230 is in quadrant number 3, okay? So we can do this bit before we even go on. Quadrant 3, so let's have a look over at my thing. Quadrant 3 tells me my answer is going to be, well, tan is positive, so cos is negative. My answer is going to be negative. Okay, so 230 degrees is within the 3rd quadrant. So looking at my rules here, this is Q2, this is Q3, this is Q4. Which of my rules am I going to use? I'm going to be using this one here. So it's 180 degrees plus something gets me to my answer. So 180 degrees plus what gives me to my 230 degrees, okay? What does that for me? Well, it's just equal to 50 degrees, okay? So theta is equal to 50 degrees. Now, because this one is not one of our exact values, okay? So if we come back and look at our triangles, okay, we don't have a 50 in here. We only have a 30, a 45, or a 60, okay? We're going to leave our answer as a decimal for this one, okay? You can change this one to a decimal. When it's 30, 45, or 60, you do a whole number answer, an exact answer. But for anything else, decimal is the way we go, okay? So my reference angle, cos of 50 degrees. Okay, let's put that into the calculator. Cos of 50 degrees, what's that equal to? That is equal to 0.642, and we'll go to 4 decimal places, 0.6428, okay? Now, from this point onwards, we need to work out, well, okay, we've got cos of 50 being equal to that, so cos of 230 degrees is going to be equal to, okay, so because it's in Q3, it's negative, it must be negative 0.6428, okay? So that's basically it, guys. So the main things from today are, we are looking for mainly, this is what we're looking for mainly today. We're looking for knowing what quadrant produces what type of answer, be it positive or negative. Okay, so if we tell you quadrant 3 cos, you should be able to say negative. Quadrant 4 sine, negative. Quadrant 2 sine, positive, so on and so forth. The second thing is you should be able to work out what those reference angles are using these rules, okay? So, with that being said, that is the end of this video. If you guys do need help, please make sure you ask, okay? I feel like I may have rushed this one a little bit just to fit it within the time, but the work that's going with this is not too hard, okay? Just follow those steps. What quadrant is it in? What's my reference angle? Is it negative or positive, okay? That's all it is, okay? And I trust that you guys can do it.